And as always, we're going to be looking for accurate context, good risk management, and always exercising good patience.
Everybody who's traded has gone through periods of time where their strategy hasn't worked.
Where if not a hard stop, you should reevaluate the trades you're in based on time.
That's what we're here for, is to put ourselves in the best success. A trading routine does that, builds that habit, lets you know what to work on, what to reflect on, and what to improve on the next day.
Good afternoon, and welcome to Make HOAG Money. This is me. I've been around the block a couple of times. We're going to have an opportunity to see if we can't come up with some trade ideas to make me a little bit of money. This is the CFTC disclaimer. Everything we do today is in the spirit of education. This is a live account. This is my account, one of my accounts. We are looking forward to working together to see if we can find some opportunities. But we are not suggesting the purchase or sale of any product or security. Again, this is for educational purposes only. This reminds us that there's a substantial amount of risk in trading futures. These are leveraged products. You can potentially lose more than your initial investment. Risk capital to me is money I can afford to lose, and it's the only money I trade with. At Top Step, getting through the trading being successful in the trading combine gives you the opportunity to use our risk capital. You'll never have to put your capital up for risk. Again, no suggestion that anybody buy or sell anything we're doing here. Past performance is never going to be indicative of future results. The rules for Make HOAG Money, of course, we do expect kindness and respect above everything. There's always differences of opinions in markets. It's what makes them so good. We're going to have a couple of people enabled to talk today, should they choose to, if they want to, of course. I'm not going to force anybody to. But we're all going to be involved in the decisions. And if you do have a trade idea, the context of that opportunity is helpful in that decision making. We're going to use the chat rooms in Zoom and YouTube to discuss trades. We'll be polling you to find out if you're in or out on a trade we're thinking about taking. We're going to focus on the MES for opportunities, the micro, E-mini, S&P. We're not going to trade just to trade. We're not going to be taking losing trades, which, as we all know, is a joke. There are going to be losing trades. We know that. We just have to take them, cut them, and go on and look for our next opportunity. And feedback on Make HOAG Money is always appreciated. If you have some feedback, you can email it straight to me at jhoagland@topstep.com, jhoagland@topstep.com. And don't be afraid. I've got thick skin. I can take a punch. Here's the platform. Where are we? Well, we're inside range. We're inside value. We are kind of hanging in an area where I would probably be sitting here waiting to be patient. We got some, rotation here. We got the initial balance, which was extended to the downside. We've got, last week's range here, or last Friday's range, our overnight range. What are we thinking about doing? I don't see any great opportunities here from where I sit, but that's just me. This is about you. Good afternoon, Nasdaq and Anissa. Hello, everybody. Will, TS Trader crashed at the tech support, and the tech support deleted it after a few hours. It started working, but I'm getting new verbal notifications. I used to only hear order filled, but now I get order working and order canceled and some kind of popping sound that I can't explain. That sounds like a notification. Well, notifications. You can choose which notifications you want. either here or some other spot on the platform, but dig around. You'll find it. It's probably your platform. I don't think you need a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Well, hello, Daniel. Hello, Phil. Rowan. Will. Any notice any new on TS Trader? No? Good afternoon, George. Robert. Will. Anybody wants to join me and have a conversation and talk about some of the trades we may think about taking, more than willing to pop you in here as a panelist. If you have a microphone, you'll be able to talk. You'll be able to share your screens. If there's something that you would like to see, let me know if anybody is interested in doing that. Otherwise, we can just sit here and watch and see if there's anything good that comes up. You can always type your ideas in the chat. Ben has a question. What are your thoughts on big players jockeying for position before earnings? I think that's a big probability, Ben. Not only do we have some big earnings coming out in the next couple of days, we have the GDP, the first view of what the first quarter of this year GDP is going to look like. We're also heading into FOMC week next week, so there's a lot of potential opportunities, potential market moving events in the next few days. So I would agree, Ben, that you're probably right. A lot of the bigger players are hedging and positioning themselves just to protect themselves over the next week. A lot of larger speculators are probably doing the same thing. Was kind of expecting a day like this today because of that, at least in the equities. And it just makes sense. I know if I had a huge position on and I'm facing some big earnings in GDP this week and the FOMC next week, I'm going to be doing a lot of attempting to get myself hedged, to get myself positioned, so that no matter what happens this week or next week, I'm in a position to protect myself. Good afternoon, Marcelo. So Fakin says he thinks the ES is going under 4,100 today. How did I get that TPO chart? Well, this is on TS Trader. You get it. What you want to do is grab a chart, not a legacy chart. Bring it here. ES. Now, sometimes this doesn't work for me, so we'll see what happens. So with the legacy chart, you're going to have the TPO charts. If it doesn't show up as TPO, you go to trade type, chart type, which is here. I can make that into candlesticks if I want, but I go to TPO. And that's going to take me to the TPO charts. Then you're going to have to make some adjustments. Okay, yeah. Faking, if you decide to sign up, welcome. Number one, we're going to be looking forward to your success, and number two, you can come to the group coaching sessions, or you can come to these sessions, and I can help you get your profiles set up. Yeah, Ben, I heard about that. I'm hoping that doesn't happen. These platforms are just killing us. That's kind of ridiculous to charge for the TPO charts. Oh, good. You're already a member for the last 2 months. Well, glad. Things are going well for you. So yeah, that is something that the platform provider is threatening, is to start charging people for the TPO charts. I'm hoping it doesn't happen. I can't do that with the TPO charts, but I can certainly look at that on the chart here. So we can go with a 5-minute chart, volume profile, and yeah, we can see that the market has been. We're just kind of taking this out now to the upside. Joe went long 41.52, initial balance low 41.52 right here. IB low. What would be a good target? Well, let's go back to the 30. Man, we got to get through our overnight high. If we don't get through the overnight high, of course, that could be a pretty decent target for you. The overnight or the regular trading hour session high, I should say, 41.64 quarter. But if we do manage to get through that, I could see us, if we get some real legs under us, getting to this point of control here. And that takes us all the way up to 41.77. This goes up here. And that goes there. Boom. So we think we're going to get a whole bunch of legs under us here? Right, it's not a redundant question at all. So with volume profile, I mean, it's relatively similar, if you will. Let me F-bomb this thing. It's relatively similar, if you will, to market profile. So the volume profile just stacks up how many contracts traded each price. The market profile is more where the market is spending time. So the variable in volume and market profile is price. The constant in market profile or TPO profile is time. The constant, if you will, in volume profile is volume. So we're going to be showing where the market has had a lot more volume to areas of less volume. Less volume. The point of control here is the single price with the highest amount of volume in the regular trading hour session today. So we're looking at a bell curve, in other words. I mean, in time, there's the bell curve. Sometimes there's a good bell curve like here on Friday in the volume profile. So you're just looking at levels where the market has provided more volume versus levels that the market has provided less volume. You can see at the extremes here, there was very little volume up here, very little volume down here, but at the same time, there was very little time spent down there as well, or up here. Market kind of ran out of juice up here, right? Well, this is not a very strong high. So if we are going to look for a short, I would suggest we try and get as close to this high, if not take out the stops above it, before even thinking about looking for anything for a short. We had an anomaly here that we just went back and rechecked. So, here's the volume profile here on the 30-minute chart. And this is just regular trading hours. So we've got some pretty decent volume up here. It wouldn't surprise me to see the price come up here and retest this. This was a relatively comfortable area early in the session. What do we have as far as delta is concerned? We are negative, actually more than this. We're negative 5,600. And we're kind of pushing up towards the highs. Could that be telling us that there's possibly longer time frame traders? Look how deep the delta got down here, though. I mean, we had some pretty serious negative delta here. I don't think that this is necessarily longer time frame buyers here, because delta has been decreasing in negative value ever since we put in the low. So we're not going to be looking at that, not thinking about that. So Ryan, general, what are we looking at? Low areas of low areas of volume for reversals. Sometimes that is the case. A low volume node in the profile can sometimes bring a resistance area or a support area. Chad, yep, market accepted into Friday value. The range was nearly identical today as Friday. Nice job. So very little change in the perception of value, isn't it, Chad? I mean, unless something comes out, I don't see that there's any really great opportunity for longs. As far as shorts are concerned, I would be looking to get in at a better level to limit my risk. The market didn't give us that. Now it seems to be rotating back to the downside. Joe, in your hypothesis, did you anticipate the breakdown in the C period? I did not, but the C period break was basically a news event. The Dallas Fed came out at 9:30, much worse than they were expecting. With nothing else to lean on, I think that was enough to scare those longs that were trying to push this market higher and get them back to even, get them back out of the market. And now we've just been rotating ever since. My hypothesis number one today was look for opportunities after the market establishes in some early extremes. So the market one time framed higher at first, left a weak high up here, which is something that, that doesn't show any excess. But with the lack of participation, it seems like nobody cares today. Or so it seems. We're at 5% less volume today right now in New York than we were at this time yesterday. It makes sense. There's very little volume. Very little volume. I think we're in for a kind of a quiet rest of the day today. I mean, when we think about what we've got coming out, consumer confidence, new home sales tomorrow, Case-Shiller home price index as well. We'll get a look at the housing sector here in a couple of different times, tomorrow and Thursday. Wednesday, durable goods orders, international trade in goods, wholesale inventories, EIA petroleum status report. That's all on Wednesday. Thursday, GDP, our first look at first quarter GDP. Jobless claims as usual on Thursdays, pending home sales and EI natural gas. Don't forget, we also have some pretty big earnings. Tomorrow, we got some Canadian railroads today. Tomorrow, McDonald's, Nestle, Verizon, all prior to the open. After the close, Microsoft, Alphabet, which is Google, Visa, Texas Instruments, and everybody's favorite Chipotle Mexican Grill. That's all tomorrow. Wednesday, Boeing in the morning, ADP in the morning. Nothing too impactful there, but the end of the day on Wednesday, we have Facebook, Meta, Waste Management, Aflac. And then on Thursday, MasterCard, Eli Lilly, Merck, AbbVie, all before the open. Comcast, all before the open. After the close, we have Amazon, T-Mobile, Amgen, Intel. So the next 3 sessions, we have some of our bigger earnings coming out. We're in the teeth of earnings season now, folks. So, these markets are just crazy. It's what are we doing? We're just positioning and hedging for the rest of the week and next week here. So, that's why I'm going to be focusing on extremes, whether they're early extremes or late extremes. I'm fine with looking for a short up here, even with the week high, because I don't think that there's anybody in this market that's going to push. Maybe unless we're too short in short time frame. I'm fine with looking for longs down here because the market's already proven that to be too cheap today. Yeah, you can watch Kramer hit his funny buttons. There you go. Chad, yeah, if you want to trade futures, you got to read Mind Over Markets for sure. I mean, it's even if you don't use the profiles, it gives you a good idea or a good thought or a good something about how markets work. It's the auction process. These markets are all part of a never-ending auction process. And that auction process occurs in multiple time frames. You'll be looking at a big trend on a 1-minute chart that's just a little pullback in a bigger time frame trend in the opposite direction. So I use these tools to see if I can't find ways to recognize when different time frames have opposite positions, right? We always look like for opportunities when our direct competitors, and I call them competitors, our time frame, our like-minded, like-pocketed, like time frame traders are one way. And sometimes they get that way when there's a longer time frame participant in the markets, not seeing the longer time frame participants in the market today. So I'm going to be leaning on what the shorter time frame traders have shown us already as to what has been shown as too cheap or too expensive in the day time frame today. I don't think that we're seeing a lot of longer time frame participants in this market. So that's going to tell me that the longer time frame is sitting on their hands, just making sure that they're hedged and positioned, and they're just letting the short time frame traders pick each other's pockets. So we're just going to chill here and see what happens. Seeing some upside potential here. Joe was long. 63. I mean, that's, you got to be thinking maybe a look up at the regular trading hour session high, overnight high. We've been up there a few times. We have a week low up there. Okay, J-Man, have a good day. So yeah, this is one of those days in Make HOAG Money where it's just kind of, I don't know, boring. Michael, it may be the calm before the storm. You're right. Ryan, my pleasure. I mean, we're just whistling Dixie here. There's nothing that I would be doing in my personal account today without some sort of a really cheap opportunity on the extreme or some sort of change. This just kind of feels like a random walk to me. Yeah, like sitting on a boat fishing and just bopping around. Yep. Maybe having a couple of barley pops. I don't know what we're going to be doing here. We started up, down, up, right where we started. Some cold ones, yep. Hey, when I was a broker on the floor, I used to take some of my customers out to Lake Erie near Toledo, and we would spend the day fishing for walleye out on Lake Erie and just kill them. Man, oh man. I used to come home with 20 pounds of walleye fillets, 30 pounds of walleye fillets. That was some good fishing. And yes, there were some cold ones usually involved. Joe, no trade for me today, but just wondering what washout rate was in the pit. I am fascinated by the pit. You're lucky to have experienced that history. Yeah. And the washout rate was pretty high. You really had to, endure a lot. I mean, the learning curve was unbelievable, and some people, caught on quickly. I guess I don't know how they would have done that, but there were, some tough kids from some tough neighborhoods that worked their way in there, and they did very well. There was a doctor in there for 2-3 years, and he was a trader. I mean, he took risks. He had some good times, some bad times, but he ended up leaving. There were a lot of folks that came on the trading floor, with some family money. They didn't work their way up. They got their seat and they just walked on the trading floor and thought they were gonna, knock the world out. And even if they did get lucky and have a windfall at the beginning, most of the time they didn't have what it took to withstand the rigors of day trading and the daily wins and losses. Many of them, ended up leaving. And then there were there were a few people that had money, and I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about money in their families, and they were there and learned how to trade because it never really mattered whether they made money or not. They were never going to have to change their lifestyle if they lost a bunch of money. So they had a distinct advantage. And, a few of them did really well. A couple of them didn't make it. As far as the washout or the attrition rate, man, it was high. It was high. I mean, there were a lot of folks that just didn't do it. And I was one of them. I've been, up and down that road a few times. I made some money, lost it, made some money, lost it. It hasn't been a straight line for me. It's been, I the only reason I stayed as long as I did is because I probably wasn't smart enough to do anything else, or at least that's the way I felt. But I was able to, tough my way through some tough times, and at this point, I can, make some pretty consistent money from day to day, and that's really all I need. I'm not at a point where I'm trying to make millions anymore. I'm just trying to make a little bit of money and go home. Make a little bit of money and go home. Make a little bit of money and go home. There's a guy, Bob W., who the family knew because they had a place up in Lake Geneva, and he used to ride the train with me and my dad, and he got a seat and he started making a little bit of money, and he asked my dad, how much money do you keep in your trading account? How much should I keep in my trading account? And my dad says, well, I don't keep more than $1 million in the trading account. And his eyes got real big. My dad started laughing. He was kidding. But Bob was smart. He made consistent money. And every time he made enough to buy a seat, he bought a seat. And he'd lease that seat out, make some money, buy a seat, make some money, buy a seat. When it went public, Bob retired at a young age. Makes his dad crazy that he did that. But that's just the way it is. I knew of Bob Dunn, Joe. I don't think I remember knowing him personally. Yeah, Bob, okay, so your dad, friend of your dad's, was on the floor and left to become an airline pilot for less stress. That is rich. That's pretty funny. Less stress. I did have mentors. There was my dad. There was a friend of mine who actually turned me on to mind over markets. And he was a somewhat of a helper or a mentor in the pit. He was trading himself. So, between bells, it's very difficult to find a friend. But my friend Arch was, good enough to teach me a little bit about what he knew. And he was a good trader. Arch was a good trader. He was much bigger and very consistent compared to many people that I knew. And you're right, Joe. Street smarts was a big part of why some of these guys seem to kind of have it relatively early, relatively quickly. They were tough kids too. They were tough kids. I grew up on the north side. These kids grew up on the south side. I remember getting in an argument with one of them, and whenever I was in an argument, I tended to use humor to disarm my opponents. So, this guy was from Bridgeview down by Sox Park, not Bridgeview. I can't think of it right now. Anyway, he was from down by Sox Park, and, it was a tough neighborhood. Italian guy, kid. I always call him a kid. And we got into a fight one day, and he says, I'm going to beat the hell out of you, whatever. I said, hey, I grew up in the toughest neighborhood in Northbrook. And all the other Italians and tough kids around him started laughing. And that diffused the whole thing. That diffused it. Okay, all right, you're all right. You're all right. Whose home have you invaded? Bridgeport, that's it. Jeez, well, I couldn't think of it. I'm thinking Bridgeview. No, Bridgeport. Yep. And, over time, he ended up being good acquaintances with most of the people that were in the pit. The ones that really were nasty, I, of course, didn't have time for them, and they didn't have time for me. So we were even. My pleasure, Les. Rue, what's a little bit of money mean? Are you talking about what I call a little bit of money? Like what I'm trying to make? And, some days I lose money. Most days I make money. Sometimes a little, sometimes more. But I don't have any goal. I've had goals where I wanted to make $1,000 a day, and I'd get up $950 and then blow it because I had to get those 2 extra ticks. So I don't have any type of goal. I'm fine if I make $500, $1,000 an average a day. I'm perfectly fine with that. Some days are better. Some days you lose a little bit. What I don't do anymore is take big losing days. I'll cut myself off at the knees before I'll let myself do that again. Hurts too much, takes too long to make back. In the pit, maybe it was a little bit of a different story because there were, one good trade and you couldn't help but make $5,000. One bad trade and you were digging your $5,000 back. See, look at this. We haven't moved. We're still sitting here. I didn't order a day like this for Make HOAG Money. I do. I tend to stay with trades, and I try very hard not to move stops until I absolutely positively have to. Because if I have a profit that's big enough to where if I lose it and if the market turns and hits the original stop price and I didn't do anything about it, I don't like that. Nobody does, of course. But I think that people move stops to their break even or break even plus one way too quickly. And it's something that I've heard people tell me over and over again. HOAG, what do I do? I get a trade on and it goes my way and I move my stop off to relieve any risk on the trade. And it always seems like the market comes and hits that stop and then the trade plays without me. Well, what you're doing is you're not letting the trade tell you that it's still good. It's not, the stop is no longer at its invalidation. It's at its entry point. You took that entry there for a reason. That's the spot you thought that the market was going to turn and you were going to make money on that trade. Just because price comes back to revisit it doesn't make it invalid. Now, of course, you got 10 points in a trade in the S&Ps. You don't want that to come all the way back and hit your stop. But I try very hard to just try and keep my trailing stops as far away as I possibly can, because I'm just like everybody, famous for putting them too close, you having them get stopped out, and then missing the rest of the trade. Yeah, I was a local for a while. I was a filling broker also for a while. Austin, nice job. 3 losses and a win for a $500 profit on the day. That's something I'm happy about today. Didn't go on tilt was my goal. Good. Jay, quick question. How aware were you of your intraday P&L while trading in the pit? Well, I had a clerk that would come and get my cards and keep track of position, and he was the one that was keeping track of the P&L. You always knew I always knew if I was up or down. But he would come up and say, "Hey, you know what? You're up 38 ticks right now. I know you want 40, but that's close enough. Let's go. Remember what happened last time? Now, let me see if I can get these last couple of ticks." Do you think we get the end of the day? I don't. Nice job, Linda. That's great, man. That's money. You beat me. You beat me today, Linda. I'm a slow starter. Mondays are tough days for me. Yeah, it is something I've wrestled with since being on screen trading is having my P&L on the screen or not. But I just keep it on there for I try not to focus on it, of course. Yeah. Well, we didn't get the opportunity to see the overnight low. We basically traded to the value low, a little bit through it, couldn't accept, turned around. This was a kind of a cash register day if you did it right. I don't think anybody expected this pullback in the C period. Yeah, and I think we're probably going to see some continued range-bound activity tomorrow. You know, you look at this daily chart. Here's last week's high. Excess. Doji. Probably be a doji today, too. This market there's no confidence in either direction in this market. It's getting a vote of no confidence. Here's last week's low. What are we doing here? I think we would be better off actually fishing and having a couple of barley pops. Don't you think we still have some shorts trapped? I am not going to compete in the CME Gold Challenge in June. I wasn't even aware of it, but nah. I'm gonna remain focused on the things that I know are gonna make me money over time, and I am really beyond competing or proving myself to anybody. So let the lucky winner Win it. Although I wouldn't mind getting that bar of gold. That's pretty cool, though. I wonder how big the bar of gold is. Do you know, Andy? It's like a kilo? Ooh, that would be something. £2.2. I'll take that. That's all right, Rooster. $95. $59, you mean? 60. One troy ounce. A troy ounce of gold. $2,000. Nice job, Joe. Nice job. Nice. So it was a spoof. They pulled it. Well, I'm not going to get involved in anything here, so let's call it a day, huh? We got Make HOAG Money right after the prep tomorrow, so we'll see if there's anything for us then. Although, Rooster, you might be right. We could see a pop the end of the day here. We're starting to see some negative delta coming back in here. This is correct now, minus 7,500. We might be getting some traders stuck short here. Let's give it a couple of minutes and see what happens. Wally. Probably going to go towards that liquidity, huh, Joe? Heck yeah, Jimmy. They'll have no problem taking yours. Let's see what happens at 60 here. Yeah. We ran away from it, Joe. Yeah. All right, let's reconvene tomorrow morning for Make HOAG Money. Have a good night. May not be doing a reflection at the end of the day today, and I apologize. I'll let you know through YouTube. But thanks for joining me for the market prep this morning and everything else. And I always have a blast hanging out, talking trading with traders. So have a good night. Be kind to yourselves, others. Make sure you pray for peace. We need all the prayers we can get. Have a great day.